Hi, I'm Amy Wilkins, leadership coach, former media exec, and your host of Thriving in the Messy Middle. This is a space for women leaders navigating those in between seasons, the moments when things feel uncertain, stretched, or messy, and you're trying to find your footing without losing yourself. Some episodes are conversations with remarkable women leaders sharing the lessons they've learned along the way. And other times, it's just you and me, slowing things down and naming what's really going on. Think of this as a place to reset, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. Because thriving isn't about having it all figured out. It's about learning how to grow, lead, and move forward, even when things feel messy. So I am so excited to have Kenetta Bailey with us today. Kenetta, it's so good to be with you.
Good to be here as well.
So let me just tell folks a little bit about you. Kenetta is a marketing powerhouse. She's got over a 20-year track record building and rebuilding some of the most iconic brands in the world. I want you to think CVS, Group M, Comcast, Sony, Pepsi, Kraft. But what I love most about Kenetta is that she's not just a strategist. She's a leader who leads with soul. And whether she's steering billion-dollar brands or reinventing local businesses, she brings insight, agility, and a deep commitment to inclusive leadership. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. And if I ever need a PR person, you are the one. You made me
Oh,
sound great.
hey, I don't have to make you sound great. You already are in so
I
many ways.
appreciate
So,
it.
anything else you want to share with our audience before we get started?
Yep. I will just say I appreciate the intro. I am a marketer at heart. I always like to say that I started my career at Kraft, and Kraft made me smart, taught me how to run a business, how to run a P&L, how to manage multi-million dollar budgets. And then I went to Pepsi. And Pepsi made me savvy because back in the day, Pepsi only really had one competitor. It's obviously a lot of flanker brands out there now. And so you had to think about why consumers made their choices very precisely. So
Mm,
kind of how I started my career, and I'm really grateful for that consumer packaged goods background. So that's what
yeah.
I was saying. It led me into entertainment marketing, other media roles, and I am a person who loves serendipity, one of my very favorite words, because you just never know what's out there for you. And so I always listen to opportunities because if they're not for me, they're for someone else that I may
Ooh,
know.
I
And I
love
like,
that.
yeah, I like to pass it along. So that's for me on the professional side. On the personal side, I will say my very favorite thing to do is spend quality time with family and friends. And that can be a heck of a lot of different things. And so what I'll say is I'm an only child. And as an only child, you learn to adapt to a lot of different things, I'll say. And so I don't have one particular hobby that I'm just so super duper passionate about. I like a lot of stuff. I'm playing pickleball these days with friends, which is really interesting. Didn't think it would be my thing, but it is. And so anything to spend really good quality time with family and friends is what I like to do.
Yeah, and I know that about you. Yeah. One of the things that I notice about your career
Mhm,
is you've worked in a lot of different, so you were at brand, but then you've worked in radio,
mhm.
broadcast, outdoor, you've moved around. That's a really interesting thing to explore. And I'd love to actually have you share a little bit more about that right now. And I heard you say, hey, it's being open to things, but right now people are, there's a lot going on, right?
Right.
People are needing to think differently and maybe shift. And so I'd love to hear what that was like for you.
Yeah, so I've never been afraid of a challenge. And if you challenge me, I'm taking you up on it because that's just who I am,
Yeah.
right? Personally and professionally. And so for me, in my career, I always wanted to make sure anything I did put me on an upward trajectory. Plan you're planning to fail. So I would always have a 2 to 3 year plan because
Mhm.
I don't know how much things change in the world so fast.
Yeah.
And they always have, and they're changing even faster now, right? So
Yeah.
you have to think about what's next, but not be so locked in that you
Mm.
put yourself in a box and you can't move out. So
Yeah.
marketing has been the underpinning and
Mhm.
running businesses because
Yeah.
I used to own a franchise, right? And
Yeah.
so from soup to
I didn't
nuts,
know that. Well,
I did. I own two fitness locations.
oh my goodness. Okay.
Yes, so from soup to nuts, it was all me, and I had a business partner, but you had to do everything. So I love a challenge, and so
Mhm.
I never have locked myself into just one thing. There is an
Mhm.
underpinning, but
Yeah.
again, I'm always willing to listen, and even when you're not looking, because again, there's always somebody else out there who is,
Yeah.
and I'm always willing to pass along great opportunities.
Always listening anyway is a good idea on so many levels. One of the things I always notice is that when I was doing that,
Mhm.
sometimes it actually had me feel even better about where I already was. Right? It
Hey,
can do both, but it also helped hone in on what I really valued and wanted. Right? Because when the right thing came along, and sometimes I chose the wrong thing, but hey, that happens. But it gives you an opportunity to just sniff around and see what's
yeah.
out there. Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. So I own these two health clubs for women,
Yeah.
and I had left my corporate job. I always wanted to do something that was a little bit entrepreneurial, and my dad was an entrepreneur, so kind of had a little bit of that hankering, even though I really love the corporate world. And I opened up two fitness franchises with a good friend. I left my job. She stayed with her job because she was married with two kids. And so what I quickly realized is my world got small. And so
Mhm.
while I enjoyed being the franchise owner, I didn't like working there every day. I started to look, and I got a phone call from someone who is to this day still a really good friend of mine. And he said, "Hey, I've got a job. I'm not even going to name where it is, but I've got this job. It's in media. It's managing like 30 plus people. I think you're the perfect person." And he gave me all the reasons why. And I said, "Huh." And I didn't really comment. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sitting outside in my health club eating a piece of pizza because I can't go in and eat pizza." And so he said, "I think you want to come and talk to me about this?" And I said, "Nah, I don't think I want to do that." And then about 10 minutes later, I'm like, "What is wrong with me? It's worth a conversation, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether, again, like I said earlier, whether it's for me or someone else. And what I'll tell you is that was my first real true media job at a major media company, and it changed my life
Yeah.
and opened up so many more doors. And then the skill sets that you get are transferable. So my advice to people, don't think so myopically about the type of industry or the type of media, so if we want to talk about media, that
Yeah.
you work in, because the skills are really transferable.
Yeah. Yeah. That is such good advice because sometimes that does happen, right? We get like
Yep,
this. And right now, it's especially important that we kind of go like that and
yep.
open it up, right? Open up our eyes to what else is possible.
Yeah, you got
Um,
to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah. Can you share a moment in your career that felt particularly messy for you since this is all about that messy middle?
About the messy middle. So,
Yeah.
yes, there is one particular time when you asked me to do the podcast, I knew immediately what I would want to talk about. And my messy middle story came really at a time that I was thriving in mid career, if you will.
Mhm.
I was on a high. I was a chief marketing officer for a major cable brand. I had a great network of professional support. You were one of those people. And I had a really great inner circle, right? It was a group of women from She Runs It, and WICT, and NAMIC, and all kinds of industry organizations. And then I was dating someone, so my life was great. And that person's now my husband. And I had great personal friends, and I was living like my all around best life. And so one day I get a call from my dad, and that wasn't unusual. I have a great relationship with him and my mom. I'm an only child, like I said earlier, right? And
Yeah.
so we talk every day. Now, this day, I heard something in his voice, right? And it was odd. And I said, "Hey, is everything okay?" He goes, "Yes, for now." And I said, "What does that mean?" And so he said, "I need you to sit down. I don't know where you are, but I need you to sit down." And then my dad, who had been my rock, my biggest supporter, like the person who taught me how to ride a bike, how to tell time, and still tons of confidence. I could go on and on, right?
Yeah.
He said, I have colon cancer. And I
Yeah.
was like, what? Um, and so now what I've not said is I was living in New York at that time, and my dad was living in Chicago where I grew up. And to compound things, my mom had previously had a stroke. And so she was mentally fine, but had physical challenges. So my dad was my mom's caregiver. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. So many things were swirling in my head. And
Yeah.
so, as an only child living in New York, living my best life, the two people who gave me life were struggling with all kinds of health challenges. And so, fast forward to the present day, what I'll say is while COVID brought about many challenges and a lot of things that we know are not great,
Yeah.
one silver lining was the realization that in many cases individuals can effectively really work from various locations, not necessarily tied to one particular office, right? But
Yeah.
years ago, that wasn't the case.
That's right.
Yep, this flexibility wasn't available years ago, and I didn't have the opportunity to work from the Chicago office and be closer to my parents. So I asked my now husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, what should I do? And he said that I should get on a plane, go to Chicago, do what I do best. And what I do best is I get stuff done.
Yes, you
And
do.
I go into superpower mode, right?
That's right.
Um, so I did that. And I
Yeah.
connected with my whole Chicago network, lots of doctors that I knew here and friends who were doctors who could really help my dad. And I scheduled a
Yeah.
surgery and I found someone who could be a caregiver to both my dad and my mom while they both healed. So then I hopped back on a plane, I don't know, a month later, whatever it was, to go back to New York City and do my job that I got paid for, right?
Yeah.
And so when the plane landed at LaGuardia, I had a meltdown. I kept thinking about my parents
Yeah.
with strangers caring for them and me not really being able to check in. Now I have a whole network of people. So I had friends on deck who were going to do whatever I needed them to do, but that wasn't me. And as much as I trusted them and I loved them and I was so glad, and other family members, but I felt responsible because my husband said, you couldn't do what you do today if it wasn't for everything that they did for you.
Mm.
And I said, what do I do? He goes, you quit your job and you go to Chicago and you take care of your parents. And when they're good, you come back to New York and you get another job. I
Mm.
was like, how will I live? He goes, you're going to your parents' house. That's how you live. It's not like you're gonna, been
Right.
living paycheck to paycheck, and you will worry so much you won't be as good at what you do, right?
Mm.
So that's what I did,
Yeah.
and
I
that's really
remember that.
you do, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I
And
do.
that's my messy middle story. I was caught in the middle of a great life, great job. I had a great family,
Yeah.
but something had to give. And
Yeah.
so for me, it was a period of intense growth and self-discovery. You never think you're going to do that. People were like, "You're going to do that?" Oh, I don't know that I could. And I'm like, I kind of have to. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my messy middle moment that
Yeah.
lasted for a lot longer than a moment.
It
Right?
did. Yeah. And you said it was a period of growth. What were the kinds
Yeah.
of things that you discovered out of that time?
I've always been one of these people that feels I have to be super strong and you're never going to see me sweat kind of person, right? But I had
Yeah.
to be vulnerable. So when I had to
Mm.
embrace that vulnerability, I've always been a little bit fearless, and so it made me even more brave and
Mm.
resilient in a time of really, for me, big adversity. And
Yeah.
then honestly, I had to have faith and trust in whatever you believe in. Like mine is rooted in, yes, God and spirituality, but also in just family and friends. And so I had to have faith, right, and
Yeah.
trust. And I had to figure out what was the most important thing for me to prioritize.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really get that. And that's a big one for so many people, right? Figuring out like
Mhm.
what do I prioritize?
Mhm.
And sometimes when it's messy, we prioritize too many things
Yes.
and and it gets messier, right?
Yes. Yes.
Asking yourself that question, like, what's really most important right now?
Yep.
Yeah.
And things
Now,
turned out well. Yeah, I'm not gonna
right.
complain, I went to Chicago. My
Yeah.
industry friends in New York continued to check in on me, and
Hmm.
about 6 months later, my parents were doing well, and so I finally came up for air.
Yeah.
And then I reached out to people, and in a couple of months, I got a call to be the chief marketing officer of another cable network and
Hmm.
all of the digital properties associated with that network. So it was
Yeah.
an even bigger job than I had.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned is on a professional note, I was and still am unapologetic for taking a hiatus for my messy middle, right? It
Yeah.
was like a messy middle moment in life, and I'm not
Yeah.
apologetic about it.
No.
People ask me, well, when you interview for jobs and they ask you, like, what were you doing during that period of time? I tell people all the time I was doing the most important thing I could have ever done, taking care of the people who took care of me.
It's
And it
perfect.
made me a better and more compassionate, empathetic leader, I think.
Absolutely. After an experience like that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm imagining too, with all of the different organizations that you
Mhm.
have led, that you've led people through messy time
Mhm.
in organizations. Can you share a little bit about what that
Yeah.
was
See,
like?
I have been in organizations that have transitioned. They've
Hmm.
either gotten purchased by other companies.
Yeah.
And in fact, let me just think about that one particular one. And so there were duplications at every level.
Yeah.
So who stays, who goes, right? And so there were some people on one of my teams that had never been through anything like that. And so trying to coach them on the
Hmm.
fact that it's going to be okay. This company is not your sole purpose, it's not your sole life. The skills you have are transferable. And when we all leave, because we got purchased by someone, by
Yeah.
another organization, you will still have a group of people who are going to be there for you and who are going to help you. And this is also something that happens more times than not.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you have the scarlet letter, for lack of a better
Right.
analogy, right?
Right.
Everyone goes through something. And so I think what's really critical, and I was always saying this to my teams, be honest and transparent. Because
Mm.
if you're telling the truth,
Yeah.
no one can blame you. No one can be mad at you. You could be,
Yeah.
but you can
Yeah.
look yourself in the mirror every single solitary day.
Yeah. As a leader, right? Like being someone that is sharing
Yep.
what there is to share so that people can understand to the best of their ability. And to your point, sometimes they're still going to be upset, but it's
Yes.
that opportunity to
Yep.
yeah. So was there a time when you found that you needed to unlearn something that you were doing?
Yes. I'll say right now is a time to unlearn something because
Mm.
AI
Yes.
has changed, is changing everything,
Yeah.
right? And I think while you might have a great foundation and things that worked, though may not work today,
That's right.
figure out how to reinvent yourself, how to pivot because the world is changing. And yeah, that's a messy middle right now for a lot
It
of
is.
people,
It
for
is.
quite a few people, right? And so
Yep.
figuring out, people always say, oh, there's some people who are afraid AI is going to take their jobs, and there are other people who will say AI is not going to take your job because it's you have to learn how to use it and be smarter about it. And that's what I honestly think. Sure, there's probably going to be there could be some job loss, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, embrace technology, embrace AI,
Yeah.
embrace different ways of doing things.
Yep.
And so that's the disruption for a lot of people, right?
It is. Yeah. Where it's, yeah, this is a
But very real.
it's a seismic shift
It
because
really is.
one thing that is happening is certain jobs are being lost. There might be
Yes.
other jobs created, but the
Mhm.
skills, right? Like actually
Absolutely.
making sure that you're diving in and understanding the
Right.
role that AI can play is going to make a big difference. Yeah.
And I think also where when it comes to AI, I guess I should say, it can make you smarter, or
Mm-hmm.
it may not make you smarter at all. You can't depend on it to do your job
No,
completely.
no,
There's got to be some kind of strategy in your head that helps
yeah.
AI help you.
It's an aid.
Yes,
It's not the end. Yeah.
can't use it as a crutch.
No, for sure. I love that. I think I might even know your answer to this one, but I'm going to ask
Uh-oh.
it anyway because
Mhm,
it would be good for people to hear. Like when you are in the thick of it, when
mhm,
things are super messy, is
mhm.
there anything that you do that supports you when that's happening?
Yep, there are a lot of things I do
Yeah,
that
share them.
support me. You
Yeah.
know what? I think you can't take yourself too seriously all the time. You got to protect your mental. And we don't always do that well as women. We want to be the superpower and all of that. But whatever it is, sometimes you just have to shut down, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And whatever it is that fills your soul is what you have to do. Now, I love to go to the spa. So that can I can shut down and go get a
Yeah.
great massage and just kind of be in my own head with my
Hmm.
own thoughts,
Yeah.
um, and kind of not worry, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
And then again, the other thing, you've got to have not your, I'll say your personal board of directors, right?
Hmm.
And that is from a work perspective, but from a personal perspective. You
Yeah.
need somebody personally who's going to check you and say, "What are you doing? You know,
Right.
why are you doing that?"
Yeah.
Again, that's from a personal perspective
Yeah.
because your personal relationships know you so much differently. And many of them have known you for so long. So I turn to that personal board of directors in
Yeah.
my life, the people who may not have any kind of job like mine.
Yeah.
They might be a doctor, they may own a franchise, but just they just know who I am.
Yeah.
And so I turn to them and get some resolve
Yeah.
um, for my thinking.
Yeah, and what I love about what you just said is helping people understand what a personal board of directors is. Like so often they think it's only somebody on the professional side, but
Nope.
you want somebody that's, in maybe in the health and wellness. You can have
That's
somebody who's like they serve different roles. And
right.
sure, you can have people who are in the business side, but absolutely having those people that know you best, right?
Yes,
That
absolutely.
yeah, it makes a huge difference. What's one way that you've supported another who might be going through a messy middle?
Yeah. I'm always willing to have a conversation. I tell people all the time, I tell people a couple of things. The first one I'll say is, if I don't email you back or I don't call you back, don't be offended. I get a ton of emails personally and professionally. Just hit me up again because I will return the call.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm always willing to give advice, but I always say this is what I would do. I don't know if it's right for you.
Right.
So I can tell you what's worked for me in my life, but my life's experiences shape how I think and what I do.
Right.
Your life experiences may take you in a completely different direction, right? So
Right.
I can tell you what works for me. You can say, hey, that's not going to work for me. And here's why. I'm happy to help you think through that or help one think through it. But I'm always really clear just because I would do it a certain way doesn't mean you should. There are
Right.
many different ways. So
Yeah.
I'm always I love to give people advice if they are seeking it, but I don't mean that my advice is the only way that something could be done.
Yeah. That is. Yeah. So talk to more than one person, right? Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so important what you just said about don't feel bad if I don't follow up right away, right?
Hmm. Yep.
I'm sharing this with people all the time, right?
Hmm.
We reach out to someone and we don't hear from them, and then we think they either forgot us, they don't care. And it has nothing to do with that. That email got buried somehow. It had nothing to do. So my encouragement all the time is reframe that.
That's
Like
right.
just reframe. If someone doesn't get back to you, they're just really busy. Has nothing to
And
do with me.
you don't know
Right?
what a person is going through,
That's
right?
right.
You don't know
That's
what's
right.
happened in their life in the
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
So to your point, it's not you. Reach
No.
out again.
No. And you know what? even if it is you, who cares? Reframe it
Yeah,
because it's what, I mean,
that's
like,
right.
I mean, the reframe is really powerful, right? Because
Yes,
we can create a more positive energy on the other side of that, even if it is true.
absolutely.
And it often isn't.
That's exactly
The
right.
majority of the 99.9% of the time, it has nothing to do with you.
Yep.
And maybe even higher than that, I'm certain. So, do you have any other parting wisdom that you want to share with our audience? Any women who might be going through transitions or just dealing with some mess, which, as we
Yep.
mentioned, the disruption is causing?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll just say a couple of things. Be yourself. And then I'm going to caveat that, right?
Yep.
Because you should always be true to who you are and what's important to you. You can't always bring your 100% authentic self to the office. I try to tell people that all the time because cultures are different, different work
Yep.
cultures, right?
Yep.
So I would never work at an organization where I didn't feel like I could be me. My dad ended up passing away. And so my husband and I said, oh, now we can live anywhere because I
Hmm.
always wanted to be within an hour and a half to 2 hour flight to Chicago. And so I started looking for opportunities in LA because I thought it'd be fun to live in LA. And then I looked at an opportunity in London and whatever. So to me, nothing is forever because you always have choices and you can make change in your own life and you should be
Yeah.
afraid of that. So I knew I'd go to LA, or in my mind, I was hoping to go to LA for 3, 4 years and then come back or whatever.
Yeah.
Ended up staying in New York, and here's why. I would go interview at different companies. My husband would pick me up and he'd say, you don't like those people. I was like, no, I really don't. I really don't. So I think it's important
Yeah.
to find your place. You can do anything for a short period of time, and
Yes.
especially early in your career, because you should try new things, right?
Amen.
That's
Yep.
how you figure out what you like. That's how you learn a lot of
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
But when you get to a certain place in your career, you want to be around people you want to work with, people who make you feel comfortable, where
Yeah.
you do have a work home.
Yeah.
So again, you can do anything for a short period of time. Be who you are within reason, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
not going to sell yourself out, but you
Yeah.
got to be comfortable being who you are in an environment and a culture. And Amy, I know this about you because you and I've talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
We've both been in environments where we were not comfortable and we were not happy.
Oh,
And
yes.
so it is important to be.
Yeah.
And that would really be my
Yeah.
parting wisdom, if you will.
Yeah. That is beautiful, right? This idea that, I always like to think of suffering as optional. So if we're suffering and the
Yep.
suffering is lingering, there's something to look at, right?
Yes.
Because it's not supposed to be that
And let's be
way.
clear, it's work and they call it work for a reason. So not every
Yes.
day is going to be perfect, but every
Oh,
day in your
yeah.
personal life isn't perfect either, right?
Yeah, challenging. Oh,
Yes.
like, those things
Yes.
are good. It's the suffering
Absolutely.
part that we can maybe forgo, right?
100% agree with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. My gosh, Kenetta, thank you so much. There
Thank
was
you.
just so much wisdom here. Everything from finding that personal board of directors to leaning into that, to finding that place where you get to be yourself, and also having faith,
Yep.
right? That it's going to
Yep.
work out. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
This has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. I hope something you heard gave you a little clarity, or maybe just a sense that you're not alone in this season. The messy middle isn't something we pass through once. It shows up again and again, and each time we meet it with a bit more awareness, a bit more choice, and a lot more self-trust. If this episode resonated, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if someone came to mind while listening, share it with them. That's how this community grows. You'll find links and resources in the show notes and more ways that we can work together at chooseaw.com. And I'll leave you with this reminder. You are the most worthwhile project you will ever work on. So until next time, keep thriving, even in the messy middle.